Welcome everyone to another Friday stream here at Strange Loop Games. And I'll be taking you through this fantastic weekend. We'll do a bit of intermittent streaming, but it'll be fun. And we got some paint news as well, so stay tuned. Yeah, crazy. Time flies. It feels like it was the other day we were doing last stream, so things are progressing quite quickly. Let's see if we have everything working. I'm hoping everyone can hear me and chat's where it's supposed to be. There we go. Dun, dun, dun. And of course we have a lively cat in the background who is calm and quiet a few minutes ago and then decided, hey, I also want to participate on the stream. So yeah, we'll see how much he is causing a ruckus as usual. But yeah, so this weekend we have a special event server that popped up, which people probably noticed, which is White Cheetah, and it is quite a number of people that are diving in and attempting sort of speedrun time trials, I guess you'd almost call it. Last one was pre-10, so it's going to be interesting to see how much that deviates from the old time, which I think someone can probably dig up. We did a whole stream on it as well, so that is still on YouTube somewhere. But yeah, and then in about an hour-ish, we'll also have Toby join us, and we'll go over some of the painting stuff. And then once we are through with that, we'll probably pop back in on the speedrun and have a little check through and see how far they've gotten and kind of where we're at, and see how long we keep talking on and kind of run the stream. It's a bit undecided on when it ends, so... And apparently cats are wreaking havoc in the bathroom, so yeah. Ignore any noise you hear in the background. Just try your best, and I'll do the same. See, see in which order I have camera stuff set up. That was not what I wanted. I wanted the... Yeah, I wanted that one, and then I wanted that one. And then I wanted my camera. Can I have my camera as well? Maybe. But yeah, we'll throw in right away here. And I'll figure out how I get my camera back on the right screen, because it decided to take a little hiatus. Why is it? Oh, right, I see what's going on here. Maybe. We want to put you there, and we want to put you there. Everything works until it just doesn't. There we go. Now we have some things rolling. Yeah. There, and there. Let's have a look, see. Spawn in on here somewhere, and then hopefully I'll have admin and everything works, and I can just go into fly mode. Let's just do that. And apparently it decided I shouldn't be able to fly. What on earth just happened? Huh. Exciting and interesting. Let's just do that so we don't have to worry about it. So I'm not gonna participate in it as usual. I'm just gonna kind of see what people are doing, try to decipher a little bit what they're doing, and talk about balance in some of the aspects where things are a little bit lackluster, or things just haven't gotten expanded enough in terms of professions. Yeah, ever first fly command per server never really works. It's a bit peculiar. And why am I so super bright? because of the snow? Probably. Yeah, it's being super bright. Can I just reduce that slightly? Like a diamond. But yes, 10.3 is progressing quite nicely. People are hopefully stoked for some of the things that are coming in there. We are probably not gonna see explosives in it, but it is still something we're working on, and it'll be pushed out to 10.4. And it's mainly due to time constraints, and we're kind of trying to wrap up all the major features that we're working on for it, and trying to just, you know, get it up, wrapped, and as complete as quickly as we can. And why am I... GMs, stop me, Ninja. Why? We should be doing /record, because then we don't have to worry about the staticky thing. That's what we should be doing. There we go. Hello, guy. Yeah, so it is on White Cheetah, which is the speedrun server that is up during this weekend. So this is, you know, live players struggling away, trying to get up and destroy the meteor and lasers going as quickly as they can in a somewhat organized manner. And going out of maybe record was a great thing to kind of go over. We're getting some icky chunk loading lag. So we've got some speedy focus on getting that initial burst of hewn logs. Busy worker bees with masterminds in control of general. Yeah, the the cat is going nuts. Ska jag ta honom eller ta henne? Yeah, so our cats are very talkative. They really like to emphasize when they just want attention, when they want food, when they want to go in the litter box, and they are excessively attention seeking sometimes, and apparently tonight is gonna be one of those things. There we go, see? Went completely silent when picked up. It's like, I am content now. We're good. Hey, I see Mike is with us on YouTube. Nice to see you. Hope you're feeling all right. Satsuki, yeah, they got a pretty decent sized jungle right next to desert, so that should hopefully be allowing them some pretty fast expansion early on. What do you do? Talk about being a very uncooperative cat here. Making it slightly hard to control all of this. With a server as fast as this, is there any point planting trees and crops? No, not really. Because I think if I remember hearing right, the general goal is to complete it within 72 hours. And the shortest tree growth is palm on 120, 96 hours, 120 hours. I think so. Yeah, no, planting trees would just be a waste of time. Oh yeah, they want to finish below 24 hours. Oh, meteor 72. Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Yeah, so it's gonna be one super intense run. I'm curious about how they're gonna deal with certain constraints like flags for lumber, but I'm assuming that no one's gonna be building anything out of lumber in particular, just for the actual progression material. But it is very, very busy bees here in the devastating rainforest compartment. He got very, very quiet and calm as soon as I picked him up. This is some anti-social. No art, no ideals, just survival. No, but in practicality though, speedruns are great for a lot of reasons. Not at least in terms of just getting good kind of balance feedback and seeing which part is going very, very quickly versus which part might be way too slow. And being able to properly kind of gauge them apart and seeing how things progress in a very sped up manner is quite nice for analyzing that. And there goes the next Seba. Poor jungle, just falling apart in pieces. But yeah, so for what do we want to touch on a little bit? Can do some. Will people even bother with roads or cars and so on? I think they might do. I think they had some tactic of doing like 1 or 2 vehicles with the skid steer to just really quickly push up the last stuff, but it's hard to gauge. Oh, that fish one. It's hard to gauge whether or not it would actually be beneficial in terms of getting that end reach goal, because it is something that we also want to touch on and kind of change out and improve quite a bit in terms of like going from getting to industry, getting that leveled up and kind of reach end game. You've generally accumulated all the necessary steps to do the end game goal by just getting to end game, because you're already stockpiling gold, you're already stockpiling XYZ materials that are necessary, and the only thing, depending on the difficulty settings, that is holding you back is the XP grind up to peaking out the professions for the modules. Håller på med. Cats and boxes, they go well together. We can get some more. Is it just people in the desert here, or do we? Can we? There we go. Exit fly mode for a bit, see how the map is looking. Ooh, I turned very, very bright on that. So yeah, we've got one big cluster of grassland, and we got the wetlands out on a separate island. And if we are looking over on biomes, deep ocean, so all the islands here are separated by boat necessity to deal with. Also, the mountain turned absolutely brilliant. Yeah, this. What is the map size? Pretty sure that was shit in there. Yeah. The amount of rivers, that estuary. Yeah, the hilltop and the mountainside turned out absolutely crazy, and then you have a whole bunch of whole bunch of lakes and rivers in another jungle grassland combo here. Turned into a quite nice map they're running on. Oh yeah, it's a 2.56 kilometer. Thank you. Oh, that is interesting. That's some sneaky resource reveal then, if it's the next White Tiger map. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the brightness in the map that gets a little bit intense. See how it's just crazy. If I zoom in, it gets a yeah, desert yellow or forest green. How many people are we on right now? Players. Actually, we can do. Don't want to do that. Manage players. Yeah, so there's a quite a decent size of players on here that's attempting this. But this is also very, very bright. Probably need to reduce the brightness of the monitor slightly. Isn't the jungle desert combo kind of OP? Well, like, when it comes to speedrunning in general, as if you're looking at like speedrunning as a theme of like across the board, be it Mario or, you know, Factorio or I don't know, Tetris, whichever, you know, game you're kind of going for. They generally tend to rotate the maps until they get a map that they can do it really, really quickly on, because the map restrictions is not necessarily relative to the speedrun attempt. Desert jungle wetlands is super OP and hilarious though. Yeah. Yeah, you can do a lot with that. Not necessarily just for a speedrun, but on its whole. And it, you know, what do you think? Because right now the general biosphere is generated to kind of keep biomes slightly separate. Would it be something that would be interesting to be able to just toggle and maybe have that on like the editor side of things, like the server GUI, of being able to specify which can adjacent each border, and or toggle, you know, specific biome islands. Because I've been looking into poking my nose into the world generator for a while, and there are a few things and ideas that I have that I'd want to do to tackle, but I also don't want to kind of overextend and do a whole bunch of things that no one is generally not necessarily interested in. Just think that those 3 hot biomes should stick together more, and the 3 cold biomes have their own strengths / equalize its resource demands. Yeah, in terms of just warm forest. Well, it's kind of it's kind of a hot pocket thing, because you've got the desert that's really hot, and then you got the forest or the jungle that is also really hot, and then you got wetlands that's you just add the moisture to it, but it's still in like the hot biome realm. And if you suddenly have desert, jungle, wetlands, warm forest next to each other, it turns into kind of a behemoth biome sphere. Yeah, I think it might be an interesting thing to kind of tackle, because as I said, it generally more of a scientific approach to which biomes are generally closer to each other in real world equivalent. Yeah, that is a good point. So right now, demand for cold resources are generally low, especially copper doesn't allow for cold starts. Also feed the kitty. The problem isn't feeding her. She lost her toy. Hörde du? Hon ser väldigt hoppsugen ut där. Maybe a copper age before iron. It's like, it's something that we've talked about in terms of having like some type of alloy. Copper in of itself is kind of weird. But if you're looking at something like an alloy like bronze that would be durable enough to make sense, it would need to introduce tin, and then you'd need to deal with two types of metals rather than just kind of getting past it quickly and then diving into just a single metal type, which would be superior. It's that kind of weird time shift of in which span of in which aerial span are we looking at, like how long are players going to be sticking in, you know, the Stone Age? How long are players going to take until they transition into the mechanical era? And having a good bridge in between them to kind of transition, you get upgrades, and upgrades kind of need to make sense across all the professions, which they're not at the moment. There are a few professions that are lacking mid-game improvements. There are a few professions that are lacking late-game improvements. And a lot of those is things that we have stuff getting ready and working on. But it's, you know, it's a journey. It takes time. Tin and copper can be made into two things. Sort of, but also not really. But yeah, yeah, brass is zinc, not tin. Early game metals though could still be utilized though in smaller amounts, like circuitry needing lead, tin kind of thing. Oh yeah. No, we have some ideas to generally add more resources and more materials in the ground, which is why the mountain was remade in like the cold biosphere was remade quite significantly in terraforming or geology types, as we cut down a lot of the metals, and that's to make room to be able to test a lot of these things, while still having somewhat pure data on making sure that there's still enough materials of that type to properly be able to kind of dig and not be super grindy, but still require enough effort and time to kind of get stuff properly going, and then getting into an upgrade phase. Right now the dwarves don't feel very incentivized to dig into that cold mountain. They're oddly attracted to the desert because of the iron. Yeah, so we have some resource shifts that we want to do, and once we do add more things in the ground, it is quite possible that we'll start spreading out iron a bit more and make it a little bit easier across the board, because that's kind of your entryway into metalworking. So that should be sort of doable across the globe. At the same time, we still want to keep the desert as kind of a main iron source. But we got some ideas to kind of alleviate the pain around that. I'm hearing a lot of fishing in the background here. Catastrophe fishing. We got the fishing crew dealing with early food crises, I guess. I remember correctly. Also interesting, I managed to stay in record camera while free flying. Don't know how that happened, but I'll take it. On Sea Otter we find plenty of iron deep below grassland at the moment. Yeah, so there's iron still has a few other spawns. Coastal strips in particular, but also sporadically in the grassland. But unlike the desert where it's guaranteed to be certain size spots and all over, there's still, once you do find some pockets in the grassland, there's still pretty substantial pockets of iron. And someone's shooting bow at me. Save those arrows for the animals. You need them for the meat. Yeah, I should pop invisibility just to kind of remove it, but they really do like to cause ruckus. Differentiating clay or even soil types could be interesting too. Vintage Store is quite interested in that aspect, though it does get to the point of too much selection for no necessary benefit other than it being in World Gen. It is like we do have that and apply it, but it's not actually unique resources for that simplification kind of thing. So if you're looking, when you're looking through like the World Gen file, for example, you'll see that it does specify like rocky soil and so on. And that is because in each biome you do have a different type of ground material based on the biome temperatures and so on. So so it, you know, we could make them into unique materials and then just have tag apply to the different types and then be able to utilize them in different recipes if we wanted to. Because we have the textures and everything for it. It's just, at the moment, it's just that quality of life, like every, you know, all the different soil types are classified and transformed into dirt when you pick them up, which is just sort of a casualization of the biomaterial. I start in swamp forest, will be running out of dirt if I start building with dirt blocks later. Fertilizer. It's odd that I have to import dirt from the desert. The general dirt chain on fertilizers is also something that we want to kind of break up as well. So that's probably going to be changed in the future. With compost blocks and the dirt kind of combo that's a bit wonky. So the general idea is that you take compost and you turn compost into dirt slash turn stuff into compost without actually adding the dirt to make it into a fertilizer, but more of a general refinement process. And we have some world objects kind of scratched down to do that. So it'll be a bit like dirt being like the off-produced material when you're using manufacturing and dealing with fertilizer in some capacity. But we also want the dirt to be consumed in some of it. Is the relationship between biome and geology a design decision, or just easier to implement? It's a purely design decision. It's a purely geographical design decision way early during Eco's development, and I haven't really poked too much into changing that, because outside of a few oddities with World Gen every now and then, I like the idea and notion of it, but you know, the longer we've been running it and the more we've been kind of looking at geographical balance wise in terms of which biome is feeding what biome and where you're pulling resources for and which part of the gameplay loop from start to finish you get the different materials from different sources, and you know, applying a heat map on it, you can see that the desert is just as hot as the freaking temperature range on it. With a fraction into the mountain, eventually, way later, some of the copper changes in mid 9.456 somewhere alleviated that quite a bit. So copper gets more use mid game, but it's still nowhere near where we want it. So there's still a lot of polish to do around it. But as for implementation of the general geographical stuff, it's more about it's complicated to pull it out to be easier to edit from the user end. I mean, 3 out of 5 toolsets use iron. Yeah, that is correct. In some capacity, one or the other. It's either iron or steel, which is iron by process. Want much golden tools? Ooh, the golden tools are reserved for dev tools. So that is on the creative side. If you haven't noticed it, I don't know which and when Mike threw it in, but the later versions, the dev tool hammer, should have a golden skin on it. And we'll also see that later when Toby pops in as well, that the paint dev tool also have a golden skin on it. To be fair, for real life though, iron is used for so much. Gold tools should be achievement. Oh yeah, there's gold could definitely have more use for housing. Damascus steel tools. Ooh, Damascus steel is pretty. That would be a nice view on things. But yeah, gold as example for luxury items for housing. Yeah, I've been eyeballing that for a bit, like introducing more copper and gold as general resources for housing and furniture. We are few, but we are good. Hello, gaming engineers. Hope you are all right this evening. Welcome to the stream. Gold frame blocks. Oh boy. Well, you got gold frames for the culture stuff, and you got copper frames, but it's definitely a venue to do gold lined roof tiles. Oh boy. But yeah, no, there's definitely a venue for things like more, especially for lighting mount, for example, like candles, lights, mounting things in general. And housing points are gonna get a bit of a do-over / larger change in terms of what what gives how much point-wise. So I'm presuming this is going to be the main cooking area by the amount of campfires that gets popped down. Quarter height low-rise roofs with corner inside. Not sure I follow you there, Satsuki. Are you talking about having like a thinner roof slab? Or what are we talking about? Because I'm presuming you're talking about a block form. Where do we have it there? Let's do... There we go. Where is that thing? So much painting. So much painting. So much painting. Couldn't find it. Looking for some detailed stuff, but couldn't really find what I was looking for. Oh well. Let's pull up the chat there again. Can we have a look at how the miner camp and wood camp are going? Absolutely. We've got logging camp over there, I'm presuming. We can fly. Scoot ourselves over here. And here we can also see some wild iron splotches on the surface, which hopefully helps people navigate a bit into the realm where they are. Presuming we'll have a logging camp up ahead. Here we go. Oh yeah. It's a lot more spread out here. I'd presume that we'd see more like super clean picking and everything just absolutely destroyed. But things are surprisingly standing. Hey Pondo, have you released any target dates for 1.0? No. No, the only general mention of it is in the blog posts, so that is the information that's available at the moment. We'll have dates more available when we have them available to release to you. Will mod support / interface look the same? Not sure what you mean about interface, but we'll try to have as much mod support as we can. I'm just gonna ignore that, Zach. It's just see no evil, hear no evil, right? No, so the main focus on for the content related to the 1.0 thing is most likely going to be animal husbandry. Meaning the CS files being easily accessed and the changes being server side only. Yeah, there's not going to be any client side modding up to 1.0 at least. If it happens after that, we'll see where we are and kind of what size of a scope that would be to introduce it. It also requires a substantial amount of security that wouldn't be necessary prior to that. So that it's a pretty big task. As for the CS files, we'll see. They might stay. Depends a little bit on if we determine that it's there are a bit more slick ways to deal with it, but yeah, there are some ideas surrounding it. Can we get the walls to use for the roof so we can cleanly cut off the roof with it not matching the size of the house? I'm so confused of that. Can we get the walls to use for the roof so we can cleanly cut off the roof with it not matching the size of the house so it can go in the house a bit? You mean like having it not extend out from the house, but just like flat in with it? I mean, possibly, but that would be just like a thin slat. Oh yeah, you're thinking similar to the a block form similar to the bricks, with its the thin floor. I think Prey 9 will needs to be introduced with the dock blocks. Yeah, there's block forms in general is kind of a constant, ongoing going thing. You know, if you wanna pitch questions regarding block forms and wanting X, Y, Z, we have a super person to poke for that. That's coming on here in a while, since Toby will pop his head in to do some painting show and tell. And he's also the leader of the art team, so he's the one that makes a lot of the decisions regarding which forms which blocks gets in what order. Granted when they have time and capacity to do them. Do you plan to add power converters to use the water wheels as energy generators? Probably not. We have some ideas on doing a bit of the opposite. While I do want water-related electrical generation for stuff like dam building and whatnot, it's like having some sort of hydropower. But if it's gonna be the initial water wheels, that's kind of just get like an AC converter or like a generator. Probably not. It'll most likely be a separate type of water interaction object. That said, we do have some ideas for moving you off mechanical power as a requirement later on through this tech stages. Aren't the earliest power generators based off mechanical infrastructure, at least as primitive forms of getting power? I mean, sort of, yeah. If you're looking at like the earliest, easiest electrical power in general would be kind of a steam turbine, probably, because you're using heat as a source and then shoving it through a turbine which spins and generates power. Potato power, just enough terra roots. Maybe we can squeeze out some ampage out of them. Just have enough terra roots. Atmospheric engine, steam and coal. Yep. A steam engine is still mechanical power converting to electric. Yeah. Like I said, it poses some interesting issues, but it's less of an issue in the future. So 10.3 is going to introduce general garbage, like in terms of, not general garbage, sorry, general maintenance requirement, which will generate garbage / waste products. So the water wheel, for example, or the windmill is not going to be completely 100% free power as they are now, because they will have a maintainable part in them that will gradually wear down and you'll have to replace it. And I know you've spoken about new changes coming to electricity in the game, but will these new changes allow us to choose which crafting benches can access it? That's a separate power thing. But yes, the general idea is to allow you to have more control over what's in terms of what's consuming / producing, who can access it, and where. But that's part of a kind of a bigger utility update that we have some plans for. If it makes it before 1.0, I don't want to promise that. We definitely want to try to get it in there because we feel that it would be an important part of the industrialization, and giving you that kind of legal control and regional control over power generation and power plants and so on. So there's definitely a goal to try to get that in, but we're also under some pretty limited time constraints to do all the general core features that we wanted to have done by 1.0. So we're trying to keep the scope somewhat realistic in what we'll actually be able to do before then and what we can't and what will have to come after. As once 1.0 is released, the general goal is just keep growing eco, keep adding things to it, keep expanding on it, and just improving, updating, patching, fixing, polishing, and the whole shebang. How are we looking? Everyone's kind of... I thought the other place was a farm / cooking area, but turns out we get a whole bunch of campfires here as well. So I wonder if these are actually turning all the random pulp that they're getting into mortar. Could be interesting one. Town being super into power generation, basically just selling its power generation capacity to the other town over. Oh yeah, there's a ton of gameplay implementation and so on. I thought farming was kind of useless here. There are certain things that you do need to farm, regardless of what you really want, but the size of the world might allow them to skip that. It really boils down to how much spreadsheet math they've done on exactly how much units that have those oil kind of things, cost relations. So and I'm mainly speculating on a lot of these things. Do you have any plans, ideas for generating income after 1.0? There are some ideas floating around, and there are some things that are revolving, and we'll do... It will be a topic on a pre-10.3 dev stream, I think. It's a few subjects in there that I'll grab John and have him on stream as well to talk about. So that's something to look forward to if you're interested. Look at that beautiful forest just vanishing. Imagine, in 10 hours, this is just going to be a desolate wasteland. Not a tree in sight. Coming along here. Do we have a mining encampment? We have a little mining encampment. See some sand being collected there. Any plans to add AI workers you can hire to reduce monotonous tasks? No. I know there's definitely a lot of people that are interested in having that in some way or capacity in terms of, you know, from the player side, but there's no plans to do that, simply because of the general scope of the design for Eco, as well as the vision, is it's focused on general player interactions and player-bound economy. And if you start introducing AIs, the Eco developers go on the human superiority road, all human labor. No, so the general idea is all professions builds into upgrades regardless of this, like, bound to the progression of the server, which at the moment it's kind of limited for some professions, like a lot of the early introduction ones, like milling, carpentry, logging, and so on, versus mining and the industrial route that gets a lot of cool machinery that can reduce that significantly way late game. But it's definitely something that we're looking at bridging the gap for a lot of them. Farmers, road builders, terraforming in general is hopefully going to be slightly easier, as we have some mid-game plans to add an attachment to the steam tractor, so you can move some dirt around, essentially. You won't be able to break rocks with it, but you can use it to terraform and help you mine quite a bit prior to getting levels up and kind of the late game stuff. Any updates to the crafting material for Adobe? I have an experimental thing going on, but it's generally in that realm of dirt/clay, one or the other, probably potentially both, and then plant fiber and raw wood. Like generally non-processed material, which will then tie into the tutorial a bit better in teaching people about where to find new professions. Why am I getting a disconnect? There we go, just some network lag. Where was I? Adobe. Any thoughts on expanding out of that kind of era? Wattle, Adobe, for example. I mean, Wattle and Adobe would, like, it's adjacent. It's kind of the grassland version of it, if you will. So if you see a weird variation / different types of Adobe, maybe. But it's also that it's also leaning into that whole notion of how long are you trying to keep players within that era of progression. So if we're looking at blocks for 3.14 days. If you're looking for blocks that are kind of equivalent in terms of material complexity and progression, you've got Adobe, and then you got Wattle and Blob, Wattle and Adobe. That's kind of leaning in towards the same tech level, if you will. Like, there's not a whole lot of upgrade possible in between those two. It's generally just, twining stuff together with fibers instead of just slapping it together and drying it. So probably more of an Adobe variation, maybe. But it wouldn't be enough to fit in between the two. Yeah, in the stream about the Adobe, it did kind of look like it might be washed away by the rain in grasslands. Yeah, it's not necessarily a very rainfall heavy resistant material. I'm having trouble finding servers that make it all the way to the end game. Has syncing server starts ever been considered to incentivize us joining mid game for official servers? That is a very directed question, more towards Dennis as our community manager. More than anything else, there's a lot of benefits to it, but there's also a lot of downsides to it, because then you have kind of an ebb and flow where everyone starts in 1 week and then it's completely dead by week 2, and no one kind of joins and or runs an official server. Say you start off the game and you have to wait 1.5 weeks before the next official server restarts, instead of having them looped back to back. The server I play on destroyed the meteor this weekend after only 2 weeks. We gotta rebalance our mods. Yeah, the balance in general is tricky when it comes to scaling multiplayer count in a static economy environment. So for like scaling recipes, for example, could be a thing, but then if recipes are scaling to player count, then someone joining before a bulk of players join in. But yeah, so if you have a scaling recipe system where an iron bar costs 10 iron ore, and then suddenly you have 100 people joining, and that the same iron bar suddenly costs 200 iron ore. If you made a bunch of iron ore into iron bars initially before the big splurge of people joined, suddenly you're rich because you made materials that is so much cheaper than someone joining later on. Which is why it's static, and if it's static, then it boils down into how many people are joining, which is also a good example on why the speedruns are so nice to see. Because you run into the issue of, say, the official servers are balanced towards, the medium collaboration or the high collaboration setting is set to roughly 50 active players. And then suddenly you've got triple that in population. Then you're gonna run into food scarcities, which we've seen. You're gonna run into absolutely devastated forests and not a tree around, which we've seen in previous builds. You'll run into, there's so much more material available on the server, and any flaw in balance in between two specific professions just gets amplified so much more. Most cases when there's people planning a career grinds all you need to keep going. Another guy buys your scroll and sets up shop in front of you, so both quit early game. Yeah, and there's a lot of player mentality to it as well, and kind of a culture of wanting to be first, which I don't know if it's just a game era culture thing, or where this is really coming from. It really goes in ebbs and flows. Like, you can really see how player behavior, especially on really, really big platforms like Steam and so on, kind of propagates and trying to do that type of genre approach regardless of the game. So if you have a whole bunch of single player games that are kind of super quick to play through and they get super popular very quickly, and then they pop out into a completely different styled game but the same general design, and we see this in comparison, like Minecraft compared to Eco in a lot of cases, because they're both block-based voxel games. They're both very creative, sandboxy. Yet the general design approach is like substantially different. With just the fact that we don't have any general hostile mobs in Eco, although you could argue that your competitor across the street is very hostile to you sometimes. But it's, you then have, you know, you don't really have any general threats. You don't need to spend a bunch of material building defenses. You don't have a consumption for, you know, turrets, ammunitions, or protection measures. Wish I could buy, sell by tag for simplicity. If you have a general, and apparently I don't have that up on this. Let me push that in here as well. That text can be changed out. Let me just grab this here. Why did this thing? That's what I should be having. Hang on. So if you have a suggestion, let me actually copy that. Add a new text thing. Going on the fly here. Add a text thing, add there. See if that makes sense. And then we want to have that, and we just reduce the opacity. So I'm just throwing in a text box. Put that up there. Apparently I picked the wrong thing. Background opacity, that's what we want. Not opacity of the text. Is that going to be in the way? I don't know. That's probably going to be in the way. So if you have any suggestions, ideas, and thoughts about improvements and or systematic changes, or, you know, with whatever tickles your fancy, head up over onto our Canny page and drop a suggestion or vote on some of the suggestions that are there. That way it helps us see where the general interest is, and might influence some of the priority decisions based on scale popularity. And there are also some good ones in there, and you can just talk to other people having those ideas. Think a tech tree where we all start as the same and then we work in diverse, but it depends on your work and not on what we research. Yeah. It's a general different approach to skill ups. And it's like, at the moment we have a very hard time component in relation to how quickly you can gain skills, how fast you can kind of force a progression going. And if you base your complete progression on flat out just how much you're pooling into it, especially for like super skill based progression and skill up, it adds a substantial higher gap between casual players and non-casual players. And we already have a pretty big gap in between them. The exhaustion functionalities and feature that we've talked about prior and came up with a bunch of improvements and polish for 10.2 is a good example on kind of some of the measures that admins that have these problems in their communities really wanted. So time being a critical component in to be able to bridge casual players and non-casuals is kind of the only element that you can use. And having a completely pure skill-based experience gain system, it completely removes that and makes it a lot harder to deal with it. That said, there is a config option if you want to experiment with it, gaming engineers, as you brought it up, that will allow you to gain pure like player experience. So the experience you gain here from your skill multiplier, so your actual character level up. There is a setting for that in the experience configs that'll allow you to add a value to it, so you will gain experience towards your player advancement regardless of like disregarding the time. You'll still get the time experience, but you will get a portion of experience that you gain from using tools and whatnot in your specialization. So if you pick logging, you'll gain character progression level up by doing logging activities. But you'd still be bound by the research unless you do some other modding stuff. Which proves eco is life with all its politicking and drama. What does the paint in the video title refer to? It is pure out paint vaganza here when Toby pops in. So 10.3 will introduce a new system that allows you to use a painting tool or different painting tools, and they'll allow you to paint blocks in colors that you craft. And it's crazy. It's beautiful. It adds a ton of life and vibration to the game, but it's going to be absolutely chaos, I think, initially. Looking forward to seeing a lot of cool builds. Regarding the time XP thing, could something vaguely similar to WoW's rest timer work? The general issue with the time gain, the experience gain crossed with time, is that when you want time to be a major factor, like even if you half the experience or double the experience, like WoW switched it around to be, you'd still gain that experience regardless. So you're still accumulating resources a lot faster than is generally might be balanced towards. So it makes it really, really tough to kind of deal with a lot of the aspects of gauging and estimating for how many players will take, the time it takes for players to gain the same quantity of materials or experience. We switch over to the wood cutting industrial area here. A lot of workbenches going on. We see some more wooden huts here and there, and we see that carpentry station really taking form here. Yeah, so for the color selection, you have inputs for RGB and CMYK. So it's straight up across the entire scale. It'll be cool. So we'll in a bit here. Need to see if is Toby awake yet. Toby is waking up. Any more plans to have more updates in 10.3? Do you have a target date for it? You mean in terms of general stream updates for content stuff that's coming for 10.3, or you referring to like more updates after 10.3 or what? I'm a bit confused. You lost me, Pondo. You lost me. People making pixel art on their buildings. Oh yeah, I can definitely see that happen. People are already doing it with actual building stuff, so I'm presuming they're gonna have an even more amazing time poking at it with paint stuff. Imagine forgetting the exact shade of black you used and have to repaint the whole building to be the same one. Oh, I can... there is... Hang on. We have a Toby. But Toby is... let's do this in the meantime. Let's get stuff set up. Be right back. There we go.
Hello?
Think audio should be fine. Let me know if audio isn't fine.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Should be able to hear Toby here. Increase you a little bit. Yeah. So, you know, doing speedrun craziness. People are building like crazy. Things are happening. How are you doing? Awake? Way early in the morning?
I'm awake. I'm barely awake. We got coffee somewhere. Here it is. I popped into the stream for a second. I was watching it off to the side as I was getting ready, and I just sort of appeared. I was not ready. I had a shirt on though, so it's fine.
That was a very much my fault. Had the overlay not overlaying.
Okay. Nice.
Toby, what hour is it for you, and where are you located?
I'm in Brisbane, Australia, and it's 6:21 a.m. So I'd normally be asleep. It's a Saturday, so I'm in the future for most people, I guess, unless you're also in Australia. Do we have anyone in Australia watching the stream? Is anyone awake this early here?
It's probably more in the line of if someone still is ask for a raise 6 a.m. on a Saturday. This is crazy.
Yeah.
It's probably more a question of if someone is still awake rather than is already awake.
Point. Yeah, I should have just stayed up.
Zombify just sitting there like,
yeah.
But no, so what do we got for us? Painting. People have been asking about what's the deal with the paint topic title.
Yeah. Painting's fun. I've been enjoying it this week.
It's been crazy.
Been a lot of good work done on it.
Uruguay. That is a long ways over.
Really?
The opposite side. But yeah, I guess just take it away to your screen share.
Okay.
I think maybe. Are we ready for that? Are you prepared?
We can do that. Yeah.
Let's move that thing up to the top right, so it's not in the way, because that's gonna be in the way otherwise. There we go. Yeah. So here we go. Now we're on.
He's live.
We are live on Unity Editor, hopefully playing nice, but knowing Unity sometimes it doesn't. So
we will see.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's been okay this morning so far. So yeah, we're here in the title screen. You've probably seen it when you log in. This is our little world that we built for that. And is my stream running smooth enough? I've got Australian internet, so it's not very good.
I think it's looking good.
Cool.
I think stream can probably let us know in case we're getting everything is looking good. So seems like it.
Quad Bros in the chat. He's done a lot of the work on this. It's looking really good. So I don't know, should we start off with kind of how you get the paints going, or should we just start some painting and show the functionality of it? We've got a few different paint guns here.
Yeah, we got a few cool gadgets and trinkets to do it. So for initial painting, maybe we should just go through the process and kind of talk about it. So everything starts with a flower or a mineral, depending a little bit on the pigment type. And just as a general alarm note, all the recipes are still pending balance. I'm still working on them, so they're not going to be the quantity you're producing or necessarily the specific ingredients back and forth, just as a disclaimer, so no one just like freaks out of like, these paints are going to be super expensive. I'm not going to be able to afford to paint more than 2 tiles. So just it'll be different on release.
Yeah, so those are all crafted here at the mill, aren't they? So we've got like the different powders that are crafted from. You get the blue powder from the huckleberries. Correct?
Yep. And you have some mixture. We've got some are gonna be organic, so some are processed from actual crops and plants and so on. Some are gonna be inorganic, as in minerals, so iron ore, copper, and so on and so forth. So there's a few different types of sourcing of the pigments. And you might have multiple different sources for the same colors.
Yeah, I think the example of that's the yellow one, right? So
Yeah.
this one's created by Sunflower, but then you've also got it in here as a recipe for powdered creosote. It's still making the yellow powder.
Very healthy to craft paints on the same table as we mill flour. Well, you know, I'd hope that the miller is using 2 different mills, just for sanitary reasons. We found a use for copper then. Copper spray gun. But yeah, so once you have your materials that you want to use, and you have a wide range of base pigments that you can use to mix colors with, you've got the new crafting station for all of the interactions for this, which is our paint mixing table.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and you kind of start out with this paint bucket, which is just like a base paint, which I could just give myself a bunch of them. Whoop. No, I can't do 100. What's the stack size on those? 10.
yeah, you're gonna have to do an F give if you want to exceed it.
True.
But yeah, that also goes for stack sizes and everything. It'll be different, but the functionality isn't gonna change.
Yeah, so once you've put this is kind of still a work in progress, and we've got some other ideas on how to advance this, but it is actually quite fun mixing the different colors to come up with unique ones. So these are based on the pigments that we've got. You can kind of like lighten it up or darken it down. Kind of charcoaly, I guess. So these names are kind of just getting pulled by the closest they are to one of our like preset colors, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes, we have a general list that will. It's just a grade of how close it is to that defined color, and it'll pull that name. So you might have a very large variety of specific colors, but it will and that's also something that we can just keep populating with specific names, or other like real color palette names in equivalent. But yeah, so the at the moment it's somewhat fairly wide range, but it can be narrowed down by just expanding that list of names for these colors.
Yeah. We're getting some comments here. I'm just reading through. Tweaks to the UI for RGB, hex value, etc. for a higher tier paint mixing machine.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea.
The RGB / hex value input is, it's a, what do you wanna call it? There is a general kind of usability concern with it, because we want the whole painting system to be very interactive, very physical in that sense. But we also don't want to detract from that. So if we add, say, you know, an interfield for just placing down the RGB values or dropping in the hex value, then the entirety of the mixing feature is just bypassed, or, you know, completely kind of scrapped, ignored, and people can then opt to just ignore the whole paint mixing and just wait with painting until you come into late stages, and you can just use that RGB thing. So it's still a very it's on the board of like, do we want it for its quality of life / ease of use kind of thing, versus is it going to completely invalidate the use of this feature on its head, essentially, which is where our general concern is for it, which is why it's not in at the moment. The the specific mixed paint with the debug text will print out the hex value for the color type, which is also something that we're experimenting with and looking into kind of how we want to display the information of what paint is contained in each bucket, player UI wise. So if you throw together that mixture and then look over on the tooltip, you can see that it does show you the hex code as color.
Yeah.
And that's something that we might want to keep. There's a lot of these minor things that that is still on the kind of design board of like how much of this is going to be usable, what's just preferred, while still keeping it kind of in the range of complexity that we're targeting. Ask for some colors with, how about do you get the color you see or the closest preset to it? E.g. anything close to charcoal will all be the same color. No, it'll be the preset one. So it'll be what's in the preview that is the output color. The name is just pulled from the closest associated point of data value. So if you're looking at a paint bucket that is completely 100% red, and then you add a slight gradient scale to it to kind of shift it over into another color, it'll still pull the name closest to that defined red value. But it will output the one that's in the preview. So you do have access to the full range of colors. And the more you experiment with percentages, the more you're going to shade and differentiate to it. Until you forget the exact shade of blue you used and need then to repaint the whole house.
Presets is something that we've talked about, and that's, we do want to do that. Just trying to figure out the best way to kind of approach that for the UI, but so I'm not sure if that's going to make it in for 10.3, but
it'll probably not. I think from our discussion, we kind of want to wrap up the main features and core aspects of it. So we might do a UI pass and expand on it and integrate some really cool quality of life things. And we do have a concept from Milenko. I don't know if you saw that yet. Posted one last night.
Yeah, I did see that. Well, I worked with him on it a little bit before, so I don't know. I've seen the final thing. So I won't look at it now.
Oh yeah, an eyedropper tool that tells you what color combo is in a painted in-world block. Yeah, it's a lot of things like that is stuff that we're talking about and kind of we're reviewing and seeing how far we want to take it. But for the general chat and discussion surrounding it, we do have solid plans for allowing you to save color presets. So you'll have an indent in the paint mixing system where you can save up to a certain quantity of colors, or if it's scrollable and we just allow any number of saved colors, and then you can just click that color and it'll just add the values you need to have in pigments resources equivalent to paint it.
I'm pretty keen on the idea of naming your own colors as well, and being able to kind of copyright them. So you know, this is my color.
Mm-hmm.
Just like color copyright law is pretty wild in real life, so it could be very interesting.
Yeah,
could get very complicated.
It can be super sophisticated. Like it can be super complex regarding all the potential related systems running it. Pondo, yeah, the someone spotted the dynamic icons immediately, of course.
I was just about to bring that up.
It's a new fancy cool technical gizmo that Toby and Mike has been working on.
Mostly Mike.
Mostly Mike.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. We could use it for other things too, but yeah, it's kind of this two-part icon that can be tinted. I lost my nice blue. That's right. The other thing that's really cool with this is kind of, oh yeah, there we go. So these paint sprayers have like this little dynamic part that updates. That's a really awful color, but
it's a pretty blue.
Oh, what have I done? Oh no!
You're
I found a bug.
You're probably breaking it. I know we were talking about if you have a selected stack in it and then you pull the stack out without pulling it out of the tool, or yeah, that at the moment there is a bug when you have a stack selected and then you move the stack without unselecting it. It causes a bit of a mayhem, so we'll see if unmesses it.
That's
how does the ratios of pigments relate to how many powders it uses? It is entirely on like weight percentages. So if you take, and it'll use one piece of pigment per input. So if you add 5 reds in that UI, it'll consume 5 red input ingredients. At the moment, it is essentially unlimited on max stack size for how much the pigments are used. So when you select and have a preset mixture, it'll take those pigments, but it will make any quantity of paint buckets with that color up to the stack size. So if you input 400 paint buckets or 400 base paint stuff in the mixing table, and then you set your preset, it's not going to consume multiplied by the paint bucket. Can we outlaw certain houses painted in quote unquote ugly styles? I think painting as an action can be prevented, but I don't know if we want to go all the way craziness in picking specific color values, because then that would need to have the RGB/hex values. We'll see. There's some interesting ideas around it. Does a block retain its color when picked up, or just reset to default?
It resets at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably should.
So
it could get quite complicated.
Yeah, because then the picked up block has to also remember what the color data on it. Satsuki, there is a few things on them that are not entirely done yet. However, you do have a general pace of interaction. So as you can see now here, he's holding the golden paint gun, which is the dev tool version of a paint tool. And that will just allow you to paint crazily. And as you can see there, there's also a preset palette that he can select stuff on. Fly mode not working?
Beautiful.
You're just doing it off.
Oh, yeah, I can fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is quite fun. Oh no. Am I going to paint the entire house pink?
I can see it now. Admins are going to need a way to remove colors. It's probably not impossible to do some sort of like clean paint command for Arial. But we do have some can't wait for the legions of illicit graffiti. Yeah, so the color palette GUI up on the top left, as you can see, which probably will be moved around a little bit is what pops up when you use the dev tool, or the paint dev tool. And it's only accessible with that one at the moment. We have some general thoughts and ideas of how to generally improve the quality of life for it. But the paint tools will also feature the same kind of form selection as you have on the regular building hammer. So for actually painting larger areas and larger buildings in kind of at once, finally doing that red stripe on the lighthouse
instead of just using bricks.
Yeah. But yeah, so the general thing with tool upgrades being like the wooden paint sprayer is having like point click only, similar to the stone hammer, and then you'll have different form selections for the higher tier tools, as well as the general pace of interaction. So the modern sprayer will have the same speed as you're seeing right now with the dev tool. Bumpity, any questions on future revision to only be able to paint one specific side of a block? I know we talked about that internally, but that in itself has a lot of optimization and performance questions and potential issues, which I think is the main concern.
Yeah, because each block's just storing the color itself, right? And then if you had to break it down into which face had it, that'd be a question for Mike, probably. And look, it's white limestone.
Yeah, it's beautiful crystal white. That thing really...
And you can also pick the colors with the dev tool, which is nice.
Yeah.
So some of the other things we were talking about was like maybe offering a slider that gives you kind of less of an effect, so you get more of the base showing through. So I guess like a lighter coat. So you could kind of just use that to tint the materials.
Yeah, we had a longer...
At the moment, there's a little bit showing through.
Yeah, we had a longer discussion on that in regards to kind of the thickness of the paint, and it had a profound effect depending on the material. The material used, like if you're using like a dark composite lumber versus if you're using a bright composite lumber. It had a substantial difference in terms of kind of how much of the background material is shining through, depending on the alpha for it. And if it's too low, some of the color shades really didn't have any effect at all, like they were barely visible, unless you did it like on a bigger scale compared to another color. So exposing that to be visible is something that we also kind of wanted to do, and we also have the potential to do that. Just got here. Did Jens paint the helicopter yet? No, we haven't painted the helicopter yet. So as you can see here as an example, pull down the alpha, you see a lot more of the limestone shining through, which means, you know, your black isn't going to be black, your red isn't going to be purely red. It's going to be more
it's
towards
very dependent
pinkish.
Very dependent on the actual like base material color. So like that one will be darker than this one. So no, that could be a slider. So you could kind of tweak that. You could go full coverage, and then just like a light coat. So like if you wanted to kind of just darken these up a bit. Yeah, not sure how easy that'll be, but it's just the color that's coming in the alpha on that. So
let's see, we get an answer on that. Yeah, on the paints, we had some ideas for being able to outright remove the paint from a block by interaction, either by it being a separate tool or if it's an alternative action on the paint guns, or kind of like where that's introduced, or you know, if we wanted to have a turpentine bucket and you just purge the color on the block. So there's some ideas and some things that we can do there that is quite possible. And it's just super gratifying just watching paint happen in eco is fantastic. It just, I don't know, it just adds so much personality to it.
yeah, I'm very excited to see what people do with this, especially like you can imagine some pretty amazing pixel art happening, or even just breaking down photos into pixel art, getting like hyper realistic stuff going on.
Could rain tint the blocks darker temporarily? Nothing's probably impossible in terms of having the rainstorms kind of make stuff look darker, but it there's a lot of different technical things happening at the same time there, and probably not initially, but we'll like I said, we'll see how far we take it. You do have the wetness kind of coming through on blocks as well. When Toby tinted the docks, it looked like it had rained. Oh, it was when he was running the it reduced the opacity / alpha on the paint, so it just you just kind of tinted up or stained the wood almost to a point, versus, you know, having like a full coat painting it. And having that as kind of a setting or a slider or something that you can adjust yourself on the tool you're using is probably going to be the better interaction change for players. Can you paint vehicles? Do you want to answer that, or should I answer it?
Not yet. But I don't want to answer it yet. No. Yeah, we've got that stuff in the works, but yeah, it's not going to be, probably not 10.3, I guess. Definitely not vehicles for 10.3.
No,
but we have a plan for it. So coming.
We have a large part of the systems in place for it, but there's still some technical interaction side things that needs to be done or completed for it to be possible. So unfortunately, it's probably not going to make it into 10.3. In terms of, and that's not just vehicles, to be specific. That's the whole being able to paint world objects in general, because it's something that we're intending to do. Not necessarily the whole object. It'll vary from object to object to which parts can be paintable. And there's different details on different objects, and they are also being kind of set up and polished while that happens. So, you know, different levels of detail to be paintable.
Trying to see if I could actually show that off. Yep.
Can we repaint the road lines? You can make the asphalt a complete color. Although that is a good question. If the opacity isn't set straight up, if you brightly paint the asphalt, it's gonna shuffle fun things with the lines. But yes, there's a good example on kind of the kind of different style and detail color shifts on the object. So that
this has got kind of 3 different color sections. 2 or 3. But yeah, this will require setting up on a lot of different things. But we've got a few kind of ready to go.
color code your chests.
Color code your chests. Yeah.
Not just color coding the text, but color coding the chest itself. What about decals, custom patterns, and stickers to be sprayed on?
Yeah, I'm open to that. We don't have anything planned at the moment, but we're starting to use decals for some of our assets, so probably something. Not sure how they would work. Like, I guess it would be
from a mod kit one for you. From a technical standpoint, you are changing the color of from a technical standpoint here. You're changing the color of an existing block/model. Will it be supported to be able to paint custom models added by mods? I'm assuming that you're talking about if modded objects are able to be paintable. Yes.
Yeah. There's. I wonder if I should just show.
Did you set up a new like base variation thing in Blender for it? Also,
yeah, there's an add-on for it. So still kind of work in progress, but needs some testing. Seems to be working.
Speaking of add-ons, did you publish the eco thing, or is that still just on your local side?
I've handed it out to some select people to test, but that's what this is here. So I don't know, are people interested in this, or is this too niche? So this is kind of the workflow that we're using. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of mix. I think some people might be interested just to kind of see how things are happening and what on earth a game dev artist do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is probably what we'll start making available for modders. Is like we've got this library which has got a bunch of decals that Malenko's whipped up. So you can, hang on, I need to actually, and so these are like little bits and pieces that can be kind of placed around on your asset. But the main thing is this common material. And then with this eco add-on, you can kind of choose which texture you want. So we've got this is all in an atlas. So there's an atlas of all the different materials that we're using. And it should be updating, but oh, that's right. You've also got the ability to kind of tint things if you wanted to, like make this little inside part darker. You could tint it down like this. But then these are also paintable. So if I want to make this part, color 1, then these sides will get painted with color 2, and then this inside part's colored with color 3. So this is kind of the approach that the modders could take to make their assets paintable. So you'd be able to use this add-on to like kind of assign those areas for color. Does that help? Is that useful?
does that mean that we can make models using the same textures as existing building blocks, but without needing dev tier? I think it depends on what's loaded into that thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So these are more for the world objects.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the idea. So.
And then each of those sides would be paintable by players in game. Yeah. So you assign the channel, like the surface that goes into which channel, and then the channel is what's being painted when you interact with it, mouse over, or so on.
Yep. So this Atlas is still a work in progress, so there's a bunch of empty stuff, and we're still tweaking values on it, but everything's kind of using this now, so should give it a lot more consistency, because like previously every object that was made out of wood was using a totally different texture, so it's all kind of slight inconsistencies, and also using up a lot of VRAM for essentially the same texture. So that was kind of the thing behind this. Yeah, anyway, back to painting.
Back to painting.
Yeah.
I think that lighthouse is looking so crazily much clearer now.
It is. There's white.
Dude, there's white, and there's
real white.
Real white, real red. Not just redwood red. Look at that.
Beautiful.
And it's not made out of bricks, it's just the same stone. Crazy.
Yeah.
Is glass paintable?
It's not. It's the frames are. The glass isn't. Not sure what we want to do there. We might be able to kind of tint it. It'd be the same color as what the frame goes to, I guess. But...
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it the other day, where you know if we could do like 2 different channels for blocks in that range. So you could have like a stained glass kind of thing. But there's a lot of general complication with it. Because the general issue with blocks, and as we were touching on, like the blocks gets really complicated data-wise, and the more details in between them, the more data needs to be stored across the board. So if you add another channel, you're doubling the quantity of information that needs to be stored in it. But it would also be interesting to do. But yeah, at the moment it's just the frames. As answer to it, at the moment, just the actual frame socket for the glass that's paintable, not the glass itself.
Yeah.
Socket. It's if the general intention is that we want the frame to be paintable, but we don't want the glass to necessarily be painted about in the same interaction or the same color as the frame is. So say you wanted a black tinted window, but you want a red frame. It needs to store both values because it's still in the same block. The glass pane itself is not. See, there's homage to you, Armored. Why are you doing this to me, Toby?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't quite make it proportionate. That's fine.
That's fine.
do zebra crossings with this as well. I mean, you can already do that, but
Helicopters confirmed by Toby. See what you're doing here.
oh dear. I mean, we already have these spinny blades. How hard would it be?
Speaking of the spinny blades, when is that upgrade coming in?
They're bigger, so there'll be a migration needed, I guess. Be an occupancy change.
Yeah, because that's input temp. That is input temp 3, right? Are those
can be, yeah.
Are those replaced on develop?
Not yet, no. But they can be.
They're
paintable as well, so if we could get that in, that'd be cool.
Socket, what you are seeing him roaming around in is the title screen world. So the thing in the main title is a built world. And it stemmed from the background image for the stream overlays. So we had the boat docks blueprint thing. And then our team decided, hey, you know, this was a great concept thing. Let's make it into a reality. So in a mixture of the whole art team being involved, using a mixture of, you know, dev commands and tools, cooked up the turned that concept image of that little fishing village into a reality, and then it turned into a title screen as well.
Yeah. To be fair, Shards did a lot of the work on this. Like, it was a collaborative effort, but Shards really just spent time on it, adding all the little details. So he's our master builder.
Can we get a save file out of it? I want to copy some of the buildings.
I guess so.
I think so. I mean, we got all of the other public kind of servers. Can you paint water blocks? Roleplay oil spills. No. So it's only taking in. It's only paintable for actual player built block sets. So you can't paint natural tiles.
Getting some lag here.
Yeah, it's looking generally fine. There's some load things there, but yeah. But it's amazing. It's cool. What was the question? I saw something about Adobe. Now that Adobe is tier 1, will hewn logs be harder to make as tier 2? They'll have a new recipe. There's a dowel rod ingredient involved in it. It's generally not going to overly complicate the recipe or move it out of, like, you know, loggers can make it, but it'll be more than just wood blocks or, you know, wood material. It'll have some refining process with them. What if you paint a mortared stone orange? Wouldn't it basically just be mortared sandstone? Yes, it was. We touched about it. We touched on it a bit earlier here with having the gradient alpha. The grade alpha for the paint thickness, basically, as selectable. And you could select the depth of and the thickness of the coat basically to vary. So you could have very different styles of shade impact. So you could have a really thick coat and it would just be, you know, really writing over the base material, or you could reduce the alpha and it would kind of shine through a lot more, and you would see more detail of the origin block, but you would just get like a slight hue change of it. So there's a lot of finesse and tweaks potential, as well as tons and tons of creativity potential for this.
Oh, I just figured out you can pick a blank block and
Right.
it'll let you remove it.
It worked now. I was having I was having issues getting that to work on the last build I was on, but
oh yeah,
maybe Mike fixed it with his last push.
nice.
It's in the stream here somewhere, so he'll probably answer yes or no. But as you can see here, we have a functionality for when you have the dev paint tool, at least. If you pick color off a block and you pick it off a non-painted block, you can just kind of erase the color you have. Which is similar to the regular build hammer dev tool, where you can just hit E on any material and it'll copy that material. We did and applied the same thing for paint.
Yeah.
Will paint be visible on the map, or will it only display the default block? I don't think it has a map update. Because the map paints are set in the autogen for the block color picker. It's potentially possible, but it's not gonna happen for 10.3. Because that whole system would need to be kind of rejigged. Yeah, I think at the moment it's just kind of, it's just picking, or not picking, it's assigning the map color for it, and then it sets that map color for that block type. Every server is going to be filled with billboard ads for their shops on the 2D map. Everyone just has text like, buy stone here. Help me get rid of it. Dirt for free. But no, so now we finally got the painting stuff in order so we can actually show it off, and I'm hoping everyone is eagerly anticipating to cause eyesores for their neighbors with bright colors.
What are you talking about? It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful yellow building.
Yeah. It is very addictive, though.
Yeah, it is.
Especially playing with the dev tool.
It is very easy to kind of get lost in what you're doing and just kind of keep poking, painting, even if you're not painting anything sensible, really. Just kind of...
Just fun.
Just fun and satisfying to do. But yeah, it's been a blast being involved in it, and Mike has done a tremendous amount of work towards getting this sorted out and done. And everyone involved in making the shaders for it, and just the technical background stuff has been fantastic. So there you have the you've got the wooden paint tool, you got the mechanical one, and iron. And then you've got the modern one.
I can't do that.
gave yourself paint? Yeah, you gave yourself paint. So yeah, there'll be some animation speed differences and some general changes in quality of life things to differentiate the painting tools as well.
Are we still looking at doing like line tool and fill tool
Yes.
sort of stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for larger interaction paints with more control, we do want to add like a hammer view thing where he where you kind of like same as when you're building, you're selecting the tile and then you're kind of selecting the tile you want to paint to. Would it be tough to implementing painting rooms to give a partial tier bonus? That is a very good question. I think it might be slightly complicated, but yeah, there are some potential technical issues with it because like the room calculator has no idea what like the data of the blocks. It just knows what the blocks is. I'm assuming you're only going to be able to paint things on your property. Well, I mean, you can paint as long as you're allowed to do other stuff in that area. But since paint will have a consumable component to it, I'm kind of presuming you're gonna have people doing like graffiti or weird stuff, but at the same time, it's also gonna be a cost component to it. So they're spending money to paint over stuff or paint stuff back and forth. Is there a way to remove the paint to restore its original texture? Not added directly at the moment outside of the dev tool, but yes, there will be. Since when have spending money stopped someone trolling? That is very true. Can you paint items such as bows or like I'm guessing general tools? Hey, Defiler. No, it's just blocks and their block sets as well as the world objects. I would never let Toby paint someone else. Toby trying to make a McDonald's.
It's beautiful.
You did get hooked up on the yellow there.
Yeah. What's wrong with this?
Dyeing clothes would be pretty cool. We have some ideas towards that end as well. For general clothing stuff and like avatar related things. But that is gonna be a down the line separate update thing. Painting with solid colors looks really bad. It removes all texture. Would be better to use tint instead. The general idea is to allow people both. So being able to manipulate the alpha value on the tool to allow you to paint in different kind of thickness input. So if you wanted, yeah, as you can see here, shifting that alpha back, you can see how much of the general opacity of the color. You can see that reducing that makes it shine through significantly more. The issue then is if you got block material that is really dark, then light colors are going to be an absolute nightmare to paint on it, but you might still want a white house, and we don't want to We don't want to kind of enforce people to then have to tear down their entire house and rebuild it just for the sake of wanting a white house. Gotta get that perfect shade of gray so my buildings looks even more boring. That is one way to target what you want to be painting. Will there be a tool like the soil sampler to give you paint information on the block? There's not a concrete plan for it at the moment, but it is something that we are looking into. I kind of want it, but we're still kind of discussing a bit in what shape it would take and how that interaction would happen, what kind of details you get out of it, and so on. Because we do want to have, we want to put painting in a way where people that really go out of their way and kind of make a larger quantity of paints available in specific shades, or get good at just general mixing things, and have cool colors, or you know, vibrant specific variations. Give them a marketability for it, and if you could just grab a paint, you know, like a paint analyzer tool, and walk up to a paint block and go, what is this paint block, and then get exact values, it removes a lot of that potential. So you know, there's a few questions in there on how much of that information we want to allow people to be able to acquire, versus discovery and experimentation thing. So yeah, as for clarification on general balance and interaction for it, painting will be a new profession. Yes, it'll be what produces the base paints and surrounding areas. At the moment, the mixing part is available for everyone, but you still need to be a painter to be able to make the base variations, as like the core ingredients to be able to make paint. And we have some other ideas as well to involve some of it in general crafting recipes, for colorization of things, and shift some of we got some other decorative general decorative items and so on the board as well to do. On the exhaustion mechanic, the question pops in on YouTube regarding what we were talking about last stream on exhaustion. Having it connected to calorie consumption makes it an absolute nightmare to try to balance in between the different professions, and there are some that are explicitly penalized compared to others regarding it, hence why it's capped with time. And with it, and having it linked to time also allows us to do certain optional things configurable, whereas hard calorie limits would be so much more rigid and non-customizable in the same sense. Gonna tell our community that the meteor will only go down with lasers, the perfect shade of pink. Please let painting be bigger than paper milling. Paper milling will get its love. We have some significant plans for all of them. When Rainbow Truck, Dennis pops in. You have a Rainbow Truck hidden away. But yeah, so blacksmithing is gonna have a lot more to do once 10.3 comes out, because we are introducing maintenance and degradable things in general. Tailoring will also get some love for another update. Tailoring kind of animal husbandry and everything around that, as well as we want to deal with clothing decay. Later on, we'll see when we can manage to fit that in, but it's durability drain and maintenance and decay of objects / entities and items and whatnot is going to be affecting everything across the board. It'll be affecting vehicles, it'll be affecting workstations, clothing, and so on and so forth to a varying degree, and it's something that will be added in segments across. So 10.3 will include tool degradation as well as workstation / crafting table durability drain, not for the table itself, but for the specific parts and consumables that are in it. And then we're gonna add it to vehicles, potentially for 10.4. Clothing requires a bit more technical investigation to see how and how we want to deal with that, because we have the issue of things like vanity clothing and then like limited item wearables from things like event and so on. That has some complicated implications if wearables were degrading. So there's a few key puzzles that we need to figure out before that's introduced. Hence why, you know, it's kind of on the back burner, but it is being planned for. And as you can see, things take their time. It's, you know, we're not a super-sized AAA company. But we are making our way forward. Toby's going absolutely crazy with the bright colors here now. Purple came in there.
Yeah. So this is just like purely the paint color. So I've changed it so it doesn't show any of the underlying stuff at all. I think we should be able to kind of adjust this value between 0 and 1, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have a ballpark figure for how much paint should cost per block? Toby's been painting for an hour or so. Does he need to be a millionaire to do it?
Good question.
No, the general goal is that painting should be fairly cheap in a lot of cases. Now some materials for certain pigments might be more expensive than others, so specific color shade ranges might be differing a bit in price ranges, depending on where they're sourced, if it's easily farmable or if it's something more generated wildly and so on and so forth. But it's definitely going to be something that is widely shifted around during the playtest stages in terms of costs, because we definitely want people to have fun with it and interact with it, and you know, mix, play, test, and not just be this kind of like deluxe end game. I don't know what I'm gonna spend my money on, so I'm painting my house kind of thing. We want it to be like a bit of an organic growing thing, taking shape along as you might see someone painting their house and going like, oh, he has money to splurge on paint. But yeah, so there's a lot of cost relations there, in especially since it's going to be both organic and mineral driven pigments. So some things are more static, some things are going to be harder to come by, even if they might be cheap to come by. So yeah, you know, it's the goal is not to have it expensive, in the general. Yeah, for world object painting and like vehicles and so on, it's underway, but it won't make it in 10.3 most likely. and it's generally related to front end stuff, like how you're interacting with the world objects and how you're applying the paint and seeing what you're painting and where. That we're experimenting with. So probably not in 10.3, but it is most definitely going to come. It's one of those things where I can just calmly state that it's gonna happen.
It's happening.
It is gonna happen. It's probably not gonna happen from 10.3, but it's most definitely gonna happen. So you are gonna have the option to paint those trucks and get those paintable things going. And it's not just gonna be trucks. It's gonna be the steam trucks. You're gonna have, you can have the SPQR purple that Toby's rummaging around with right now for an excavator or whatever your heart's desire.
It's nice.
Yeah. Go. So the general, it'd be nice if you can somehow filter which blocks you want to paint with the paint gun, so you don't paint the blocks you don't want. Yeah, the general idea is to introduce that line / point line floor fill selection types that you have for your build hammer to also be applicable with the paint spray. So you can actually deterministically decide where you want to be painting, or if you want to paint specific details but you don't want to risk painting all over the place. It needs a block outline. I think it is outlining the block you've selected, but because it's green, I think it might be, or is it not outlining it? It's not out. It should be outlining it. That would be a bug.
It's also happening with the dev tool, so it's
yeah.
darkening it slightly. Yeah, it's a bug.
Yeah, that is just bug. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Should we have a civics integration to be able to ban ugly colors and enforce color styles? That was what was requested, Dennis. Ban the color green.
That depends. Would you consider this ugly? Would you ban this?
We're only introducing the ability to paint, and people immediately start thinking about how to prevent it. Oh yeah, regarding that bug, the bug doesn't exist in staging 2896. The question is which build that is. Is it... I can see what block is highlighted. The question is the bug introduced on Toby's updated branch, or is it, or has it been fixed since? That is always the curiosity. How will buying and selling paints work in stores? It'll be chaos. It'll be outright carnage. No, so paint lists in varying degrees, and I believe at the moment it's showing the... Can't remember. Mike may be able to help out with that. I think it was listing with the RGB as filters, but I'm also not sure now that I'm thinking about it. If you pop down a store and add the paint, I wonder if it's gonna cause chaos.
Right here.
Regarding store selling paints, can we have it when you hover over the icon on the tooltip to show the like a big window preview of the shade? I think it might be displayable in the tooltip. You need to have it on property as well.
Yeah, I'm scared that if I claim this is it might crash everything. But
do you have a settlement placed somewhere? Or you claimed it with claim, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, that is exciting.
So what am I doing? Paint.
Add paint bucket.
Hey.
It's a different.
Nope.
Is the paint bucket not showing up, or did?
It's
it-
not showing up.
Ooh, is it running with it? Is it running with the unhiding?
Yeah, I think so. Because I can.
Did you run it with
See it
it?
in here. See it in here.
Right. Well, as are you able? Oh yeah, pull it back
Oh,
into
sorry.
full screen. There you go. You see the solid bricks. Solid bricks thing. So yeah, in if you pull up the skill menu, you have a new profession selection, which is somewhere in there. One of the question marks. That's the one.
Painting.
Yeah. Still, it's very Roman. There with the yellow and purple. So we've got scientist coming in as a new profession parent, and then we're putting moved over oil drilling into it. Oil drilling might get renamed at some point, perhaps. We'll see. And then we have painting in under it. And painting it'll absorb a few of the recipes that are non-specific at the moment. There's still a few recipes that are on some temporary locations, so they're not, it's not accurately depicting what can be crafted and so on. So it'll do a few more things initially, and then we're gonna have some more stuff coming to it in 10.4, and just kind of keep polishing on it and add things. Might add some decorative pieces in there as well, and a few things. The scientist is just the actual parent profession for it, so similar to how like carpenter is for carpentry and logging, and it's just the kind of the collective profession for it. Any clue on when the lucky logger will be put in and work? We have some plans for like overhauling the entirety of the perk system. And the reason why some of those haven't been fixed yet is because they have some technical drawbacks that just doesn't really play nice without it. But once that's done, which should be done before 1.0, we also have some plans to redo the general effects and restrictions for a large portion of the crafting perks across the board, to be more of a uniqueness to each profession rather than just kind of the same for all the crafting professions. You're looking for that perfect shade of blue again?
Teal.
And you can see how teal can be multiple different types of colors.
That's working. Oh, what happened there?
Very good question. Alpenglow, the speed of interaction is in the tool. So if you compare the wooden paint sprayer with the modern paint sprayer, one is doing like its own kind of sequence of it, and then the other one's just gonna kind of let you freeform paint as he's doing with the dev tool right now. Can glass be stained and painted? No, unfortunately not at the moment. We'll probably look into it, but the frames are paintable, but the glass is just plain glass material. It's not going to be shadable at the moment. It is turning into a very colorful building. For usability commands from admin side of things, you have some new commands to spawn paint buckets with different shades directly from RGB input values.
Yeah. Paint RGB.
And then you can specify the color range and the quantity of buckets as well. Maybe painters consume
Like
less paint when applying it. Everything like paint to block is a 1-to-1 ratio, so you can't really fractionize that. It's kind of like, you know, think of arrows for a bow. You can't really fire half a bow. But yeah, so painting will have a calorie consumption per interaction similar to the other thing. Oh yeah, Alpenglow, that is definitely something you can do. But you can't fractionize it, so either it will, you know, not consume it or it will consume it, so on. Are we ever gonna add more expansions to the farming industry, like beekeeping? Well, a lot of that is probably gonna be related to the animal husbandry thing, since it's kind of animal husbandry will be its own profession, but it's also quite an encompassing area of focus for what we have plans for it in regards to like anything related to animal interactions, be it, you know, bees or whatnot. As for animals powering different machinery, we'll see how far and where we take it. It could get very complicated, but there's some interesting ideas for it. What are you up to now?
Just playing around with the RGB values.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well, Dennis. It's like, is he painting a giant Austrian flag mural in the back there?
No, I don't. I don't know that flag.
It was Austria there for a moment.
No, I'm from Australia, not Austria.
But yeah, so, you know, painting can you kind of just get lost in it.
You really can.
Mm-hmm. We've been going at the painting now for like what, 1.5 hours, something.
Really? I guess so. Yeah. Wow. And what have I got to show for it? This beautiful building. God is not going to be happy with me. You put a lot of love into this one.
And you come with a paint gun, and it looks,
yeah, beautiful.
Is the building a soft play center? Piece of art. That is art.
Yeah. Based on actual Australian housing. Yep.
It is colorful enough to be a playground thing. No, it's really cool seeing it finally come into life and being able to show it off and kind of go through what steps to get to it, and everything kind of surrounding it. Any thoughts of adding in matte, gloss, metallic, etc. type paints later on?
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Would be some interesting. I mean, it would just be different feels with a different type of base paint, right? Just take in
Yeah, we could just
more values than just the colors.
Yeah. Like at the simplest side, we could just kind of adjust the metallic roughness. We could start doing like fancy shaders with clear coat and metallic flecks and stuff like that. Would be cool.
Yeah. Contract stipulation to allow painting access only, so you could hire someone to paint your house. It's a good point. I think there should probably be a contract for it, or a contractable source for it, and I believe they should be auto pulling from the civics. So paint block / remove paint is probably going to be a civic trigger, just from the interaction standpoint, and then from there players can just go crazy with it. Are you hiding all the shiny colors and just?
Yeah, I'm feeling self-conscious now.
Going more of a neutral tone. Just don't just don't hire Toby to paint your house.
Unless you want a really cool house.
It'll be colorful, if nothing else.
Yeah. What's wrong with a bit of color? See, look how boring this is now.
Can you paint any furniture / what about doors? It falls under the same kind of delay as vehicles, as they're all world objects. So you will be able to paint all of it to a certain degree. Based on specific channels. So you'll have up to 3 potential color choices / detail settings on each entity. But it's not gonna make it for 10.3. But it is definitely happening. Now that said, all of the assets might not be paintable from the offset once that's released, because it takes quite a bit of work to go through each of them to make sure that they're set up to be paintable and which parts are paintable in the prefabs, and then from Unity interaction side of it. So it might be that a whole bunch of things are paintable and some aren't. But yeah, that's a different topic to go over. Kind of see, probably list which objects are paintable or which aren't, depending on which list is the bigger list. Initially, and then at the end of it, everything will be paintable to some degree.
Yep. We'll probably prioritize things that kind of make sense. Like vehicles will be a big one to do first, and then just objects that you see around a lot.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of prioritize in that way.
Are you guys having to go into each of those assets to set them up for painting? Yeah. It varies a little bit, because like certain entities are just like child variants of a parent one, and then you just need to fix the parent one. So for things like Ashlar Furniture XYZ, you only need to change the parent version, and then it'll just propagate to the sub ones. But while they are poking their nose into those assets and their prefabs, they're also taking the time to clean them up, standardize them, and kind of add LODs and fix up all the technical bits and pieces for optimization purposes, and redoing some of the assets while they're digging into them. The windmill being a good example, or the windmill, the water wheel, and so on. we've redone the whole asset.
Yeah, and it's more optimized, so it'll, especially when you see a lot of them all clumped together, it'll help performance. Oop.
Does painting over a block with the same color use up paint? No. So right now he's using the dev tool for it, so it.
But yeah, if I'm using paint,
it'll prevent you from painting over it. We might tweak it out a little bit so it's more of a it doesn't consume paint, but it's increased performance, downside people with borderline RGB vomitified houses. Armored Toby's looking like he's falling asleep. It's probably not too far off because he got woken up way early in the morning for this.
Yeah. And I'm also just zoning out painting, so I'll sit up straight. There we go.
Keep your back straight. Drink some water.
Like
it's okay. It's what, 9 a.m? 8 a.m?
7:47.
Yeah, it's almost 8 a.m.
Yeah. So I'd probably be waking up around now anyway, I guess. Maybe a little bit later. This is fun though. Look at this.
It is.
You paint one whole half of your house one color and then the other half.
A two-faced house.
Yeah.
Hey Toby, can you wake up to answer the question on the stream? No, I'll paint.
Accurate.
You mentioned windmills. I'd really like to have large windmills to recreate more believable windmills, like the Netherlands ones, like really big bladed ones. It's actually something we're doing with the wind turbines, among other things. Like the blades are, that asset is just so much bigger. And it's something that we're doing for a lot of these kind of general world object things. The water wheel is one that's coming in. We made it bigger, right?
It's wider.
Yeah, it's wider. So the wind turbines, I popped them up on a stream. I don't know which one. Two streams ago, 3 streams ago, something. Went over a bit of performance related things. Showed up some of your optimization data screenshots, comparing frame rates and whatnot between the old wind turbine, which we're seeing on the screen here on release, versus the new one that's like 3 times the size, more details, and has 4 times the optimization. Gonna
see if I can find it as well.
It's probably buried under a lot of other screenshots and discussions. Ever going to add a water-powered turbine, like being able to build a dam? Hydroelectric is difficult due to how the water kind of behaves. If it was more about a kinetically volumetric water that kind of ran all over the place, it would be easier, but it's flashbacks to Todd Howard saying 16 times the detail.
Nice.
No, but there is ever going to make the water behave. It's been behaving better and better with each update now, I think. We're getting more and more stuff together, but like water in a cube voxel world is always going to be a bit wonky in one way or another, either completely breaking realism, anticipation with like, you know, free floating water block in the sky kind of thing, versus are you not able to create new source blocks in general, and then all you have, like, you're destroying the original ones, and then that water is gone from that world forever. There's a lot of complicated issues with water manipulation in general, yet still retaining water as a criteria for geological restrictions. And there's some parts of that we definitely don't want to remove, hence why water isn't, you know, carryable with a bucket and you can just place a source block all over the place. So there's a lot of design that goes into dealing with those types of issues where our target design idea might kind of clash a bit with what's conveniently a quality of life thing and interactable. Also reminds me, those decorative wall mounted pieces needs that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
They are a bit floaty.
Mm-hmm.
I think none of them have that set up.
Ones...
No, I don't think they're set up.
Okay.
I don't think the glass bulbs have it, I think. I think so. Yeah, no lava buckets. But no, it's gradually expanding. We're, you know, stuff is being.
Like...
Ooh, those are pretty. But yes, you know, there's detail to it. There's some technical limitations to it, and then there's also kind of the clash versus player usability versus design complexity and kind of mixture to it. But yeah, no, the painting's awesome. It just adds so much vibrancy to it. Sevin, yes. Yes, you'll be able to paint everything. Vehicles and world objects will be coming at a later update. So for 10.3, it's only going to be blocks and placeable blocks. But yeah, 10.4 will probably introduce the general world object painting, and then each subsequent update will have more paintable objects being fixed and hooked up. When will lumber building options get some love? Hewn log has like 2 times the options, same for brick, and I'm presuming we are talking lumber block forms. Toby.
Yeah, there's Rob's actually looking into some stuff for the lumber at the moment, which hopefully carries across to other blocks. So different types of approaches to the roof, more replacement of different wall types, that sort of thing. So I know blocks take quite a bit of time to work on, and we don't get the opportunity to kind of dedicate a lot of time to them that often. So hopefully that's something we can do more of. But yeah, lumber's definitely one that we're looking at the moment. So what would you like? What forms are you looking for?
Post suggestions for them in listing on the canny, please. So you know, specify specify the type of material and the form you would like to see. Preferably, if you have multiple suggestions, preferably keeping it in one post. Like if you're doing like block form suggestions for you know, lumber in this case, drop in any and all suggestions for that block the block set in the same kind of thread. Will make it a lot more readable. But yeah, absolutely, pop in over on the canny page and go nuts. Getting some solid general player feedback on which block set they think are missing forms, or kind of which which form types, if it's like a specific corner or inward, outward, upwards, downwards, and half blocks, and so on and so forth. Just pop in any and all suggestions in there. It'll help us keep them tracked, and it'll also help people kind of voting on them and weighing them in.
Yeah.
Really helps us out.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like is kind of like feedback on pre-placement versus just auto building. So, it's like, excuse me. Yeah, setting up like rules to kind of cover every situation is tricky and sometimes not possible. So you end up with like placements that you can't get the block to rotate properly. You can't get the exact form. But then if we kind of expose every form as selectable, that's going to be a lot to kind of manage as well. But I'm kind of open to how people want to like handle that. If we want to get some votes going on it or something like that, maybe we can kind of mix the two. So we have like an auto builder that does very simple stuff, and then if you wanted to use the more advanced forms, they're freely placeable and rotatable. Something like that. It's kind of what Rob's playing with at the moment, so we're kind of like catching up on that almost every day to see what works and what doesn't work. So
nice, cool to hear. Hopefully that answers the general questions surrounding block forms in kind of how, where, and what. A lot of the rework of the brick blocks have been great. Would like to see that approach being applied to other blocks as well. Satsuki, a trigger definitely is good, but it won't be a block type per se, but rather placed down as a rotated selectable block form. The selection will simply be chosen through a procedural helper subroutine. I think it's down to like anytime you try to kind of automate what's connecting to where, you have to cover like all cases across the board to make it play nice. Whereas if you have direct manual control over it, it adds a layer of complexity because you then have to expose every single type of block form for that form. So in terms of like a wall, you'd need the singular wall piece, you'd need the T intersection, and then a cross intersection as individually selected block form types.
Yeah, so similar to what the Adobe's kind of doing, which I think you showed this off last week, didn't you?
Yeah, that's.
So this has got a lot more options for like actually placing down.
Because then the issue comes in with when you have complete total control, the whole construction menu gets really filled really quickly on just a few different block form types. So as we can see, if you're holding out the build menu, you have, what is it, 6 entries or 5 entries? Yeah, 6 entries just for the single wall type. So if you then have, say, a thin wall versus a thick wall versus an offset wall, it's 18 form types that you need to browse and switch through, and that suddenly kind of fills up that whole UI very quickly. We have some ideas on how we want to approach if we do change it. To deal with that in terms of like suggestions coming in on Twitch, like subcategories / scrolling to change rotation for it, or and so on and so forth. So there are some there are some general ideas there to improve quality of life, controlling a large quantity of block forms. If we do allow you to like complete manual autonomy over how you're placing them, as I know a lot of times the auto builder just doesn't fill and cover the basis for what people might be wanting to do with certain things. Like you can do weird artwork or whatever, and then the auto builder just mucks it up for you because it wants to be connecting to the XYZ. I know in particular the roof builder tends to do that when it's not building against other roof types, but like a roof type word into a wall segment or a glass segment, and then suddenly the builder doesn't really know what to do, and covering all of those cases gets really complicated really quickly. Is this the final texture of the adobe blocks? Was hoping it would be more yellow / sandish colored.
I think it does need a little bit more work, yeah. So I think it's not final, but final-ish.
Yeah, I guess it's more about not so much the texture per se, but more the tint of the texture, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, having it a little bit more of a, it's actually good if you pull up, yeah, if you pull up the floor versus the block or the cube.
Yeah.
It has
that dried.
Yeah, it has a bit more of a dried kind of frequently walked on look of it. Yeah, if you don't like the color of your adobe, you now have the option to paint it. Yes, Satsuki. Any block form is any block that has the attribute for being painted is paintable. Which also on
there we go.
Yeah. So on the modding side of things, yeah, that looks more right. On the modding side of things, there is a new attribute for declaring a block to be paintable, or a block form to be paintable. And if you don't want specific blocks to be paintable, you can also remove it and override the vanilla files for it. So if you want specific block types to not be paintable, you can do that through overriding with mods. And if you're adding blocks to the game, it's not a complicated process to get the block forms to be paintable, so should be fairly simple. Since we almost have the adobe now, there's no chance for having half timber as well. Was playing Manor Lords for the last ... The houses there looks awesome. I haven't had the opportunity to dive into that yet. Been interesting one, but I mean half timber is kind of hewn, like, isn't it? Or am I being confused?
Half timber? Like logs halved? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm being...
No.
Oh yeah, okay. So it's more of a defined lumber thing. It would probably be more lumber, like lumber forms. So on tier 2 lumber, the floor, you have those like cross beam, like the exterior cross beam wooden pieces. Yeah, those things.
These ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those on, you know, like old British styled, you know, medieval housing things, like plaster things, and they have those like cross beams to keep structural integrity and things.
Oh, yep.
That's what they're talking about.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
But I think that would be more in line with a like a lumber form maybe, since they're kind of half sneakingly in there.
Hmm.
Yeah, half timber is a timber log frame with clay/adobe inside. Or you know, it's framework and then plastered covered, which is great for insulation.
Pretty funky.
It is.
Pretty funky.
Some neat color selections
Oh.
here. You and that purple.
Beautiful.
Immediately going for that. Almost some donut thing going on there.
I might be hungry.
So wheels of cheeses and donuts that's going through Toby's head right now. But no, it's I don't know. Are you feeling kind of content, happy?
I guess so. Everyone made fun of my painting. So
Beautiful artwork. See, Toby, there's no glass in the new window.
No glass. Yeah.
Can we remove the glass from the hewn logs?
It'd be easier to just add glass to this one, though. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Kind of, it's always been weird that you have glass as a separate thing, but then glass is included in all of those other forms.
The only one that's kind of difficult for the glass thing for removal, I still want like brick embedded glass, but I don't know. Maybe look at simpler frames for the glass and rip them out, and just leave glass to glass. Radical ideas. Dun dun dun. You'd lose the grills. But maybe. I think it's one of those things that Toby's gonna simmer on, and then something will happen. Either that one gets glass or glass gets removed. But yeah, see, we have those. There's just like slick, thin lines on it.
Auto builders.
Yeah, the auto builder doesn't like corners.
Yeah.
Corners where something else is connected to is even worse.
Yep. Maybe we could do a few different tiers of glass block that kind of go even earlier.
Kind of want less glass.
Yeah.
Not more. Although.
But as a separate block.
Yeah. Like I said, you know, we'll see. There's a lot of things to do in there, and as you said, we also don't really have a whole lot of time set aside to deal with quirkiness of some of the block sets. We're kind of ripping them out or redoing them completely to fit another type of style or and so on, as they are really complicated. But hopefully we'll see some more forms to some of the block sets eventually.
Yeah. I'd like to eventually get everything kind of consistent so that it kind of functions the same and there's at least some consistency to the forms.
Yeah.
You can still kind of expand it as we go up, but be nice. That's fun.
Yeah, that one doesn't really align well. Exterior part of the corner and then versus the middle part of the corner.
I know what it's missing.
It's not colorful enough.
Paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
matching perfectly.
That's beautiful. Street art sculpture. Yeah, we should update the title screen so that you can see this. Going over here. Yeah, yep. Definitely want to see that in the title screen.
Would it be possible to make hedge blocks?
Yes, it is possible. There is a mod for it as well, and it's something we want to do. We've started kind of poking at it a little bit. Was hoping that we could get it in with the outdoor decoration stuff, but maybe not. Might have to be after 10.3, but yeah.
Starting a petition for Toby to paint the title screen.
You'll regret it.
Yard room tier. Yeah, so we'll have a dev stream on the whole outdoor thing. It's a new room type that's coming, and it has a bunch of new objects that you can decorate with and all kinds of cool stuff. So, you know, follow along, keep in update line on Discord. What do you call it? We pop out information, some sneak peeks, previews, and some cool stuff that's being discussed, and you know, just generally more information flow on the Discord than any of the other channels. So that's what I primarily use. I pop into to Steam discussions every now and then, but I tend to stay away and let that whole zone to Dennis. Just because I have a hard time talking in forum form, if you will. I prefer more of a direct line of communication instead of, you know, getting a reply every 7 days. But that's just, you know, that's just me. But yeah, no, it's been awesome to have you here and taking your morning time off on a Saturday. And I know I'm
supposed to be watching cartoons right now in my pajamas.
Right. I know if I just let Toby go on here, he'll have the stream glued with radical painting all over the place for the next 6 hours straight.
Yeah, you should probably wrap this up.
Because I know that I got super absorbed as soon as I started poking in the painting stuff. It just Bob Ross intensifies. Yeah, it is very gratifying just poking around at it. There's some tranquility to it, and serenity that's just another layer onto the calmness in eco when you're just kind of casually strolling around doing your thing. Yeah, so, you know, as for the stream, we'll pop back in on the speed run, and I'll continue answering questions for a while longer. And we say thank you for.
I'll jump out.
Thank you for hopping in and participating with us, and showing off the new painting stuff.
No worries.
It is
all those happy accidents.
Oh, it's been
cool.
Pretty neat, and like I said, we're working intensely on it and trying to get it out as quickly as possible. We'll have some more updates relating playtest, information about the playtest and related update information should be popping out on Discord eventually. I'm not gonna give a date because I'll get crucified from everyone. But yeah, we kind of want people to get a crack on it and see if they can break what we failed to break, or just see cool stuff that they make, and getting some balance input, and seeing how many people are using it and where and how, and kind of all the things around it. It's gonna be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. So with that, thank you, Toby, and
All right.
have a continued great weekend.
I'll catch you later.
Yep.
How do I get out of here?
I've trapped Toby. He's in the basement. No, just
I'm gonna close.
hop out of the Discord and you're fine.
All right. Bye.
Take care. There we go. So now it's everyone else and me. Toby has run off. He managed to escape. He's free again. Switching over footage to this thing, and then we want to hide that thing, and then we want to do that. Ba-bam! There we go. Now we are back here, and let's see. We had some outro questions here from that. I think everything should be running and screen over and everything. Yeah. So on that quick question for planning to add new professions and trains and vehicles. Vehicles, yes. Well, not necessarily vehicles per se, but like stuff to vehicles. We have a new attachment coming for the Steam tractor that will go over here in another stream. A new profession, which is the scientist, coming, which is oil driller, is being moved to that profession. Painting, which is the new profession that'll handle all the general craftables surrounding it, is in there as well. And then we have some ideas for other professions that will also be under the scientist profession umbrella. So stuff will be more populated and kind of added and fleshed out with as we go along here. Yoshi, hey, hello. Thinking of buying the game, have no clue if I'm gonna like it. Does it end at some point? Does it stay as an active world and you can progress this? I think there's a lot of people in chat that would just flood you with information if they got away with it. But no, so it's fairly open-ended. It's a sandbox environment. There is a general kind of end goalish objective with a meteor flying in the sky on, if it's enabled, which it is by default. Objective is to shoot it down, and then after that's done, it's not gonna, complete, save out, or like end the scenario, if you will. It's an open-ended cycle, so it is up to each and every one, as well as the server owners, to kind of restart and do their thing, or if they want to keep going. There's quite a few of longer running servers as well. Will there be flying vehicles? There's none planned at the moment. Bicycles and or other efficient vehicles for commuting would be neat. Normal cars for role playing. There's potential for it, and we also have some asset upgrades coming in as well, like the powered cart, for example, is gonna get a facelift, a significant facelift. It has the Don't think it's in 10.3, but it is getting a complete revamp on its look. And the new one's looking pretty cool. So when we hopped out 2 hours ago, there was a forest here. There is no longer a forest here. This is very ripped in pieces. Not rest in pieces, it's just ripped in pieces. Or was it rest in pieces rather than rest in peace? Whichever up the one. Yeah, people have been really, really busy just gutting this thing. So if we turn around here, we are starting to see some constructional assembly line taking place. We also starting to see about a bunch of shale being stacked up here as well. Probably gonna spook players sneaking in here. Whalen and Narc in here. Some mass research tables to get tech progression swooshed in. Yeah, Satsuki, it's slash record. It does like a smoothing speed limitation transition thing, so you don't have that jerky kind of fly hard input. So it's more of a curved motion. Any plans for additional diagonal blocks? Not at the moment. We're trying to stay clear of it because it adds a huge quantity of complexity to a lot of things, especially for anything that's automatically built. So we've stayed cleared of it at the moment, but you know, we'll see what happens in the future. No one knows. Maybe Toby gets a grand vision of everything needs to be diagonally built and you can no longer have squares. And we see some mortared research as well as iron ore starting to take shape here as well. Yeah, everything diagonal and purple and yellow. Don't forget the yellow. Or is it yellowish orange? Couldn't really tell. Framed glass lost its thin floors. We'll have to take a look at that because I recall it, but yeah. Will there be new functionality for the mechanical crane? We have some ideas on how we want to rework it. But it's kind of in that land of broken stuff is more important at the moment. And we're kind of prioritizing a lot of what we have on the roadmap that we kind of need to get done, and then if we have time to do some of those polished quality of life improvements and upgrades for these things, we'll see. Holding multiple materials at once would be a big improvement to it. Yeah, I think holding multiple materials at once, not just for the crane, but just in general, is something we've looked at every now and then. We had some stuff drawn up back in when we had Keegan on the art team, but it kind of got pushed out and a bit forgotten. So we might take a new peek on it. It depends a little bit on how complex it would be. We'll see. The current roadmap, or the recent roadmap per se, up to 1.0 is on one of the latest dev blogs on Steam. So many stumps. Yeah, there's total deforestation and devastation here. It's a lot of trees cut down. It's a very, very big chunk of the forest. We're going through and checking out the tech tree. What is going on with the tech tree? Dennis. 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 I don't know if I broke it, but the tech tree display is not what it should be looking like. Huh. Timulus. Yeah, that'll basically be how it works. Yeah, so a lot of early tier woodcutting. I can see some people being strolling about. But so far everyone's kind of stuck up on the island. Imagine Stone Age lumberjacks deforests enough of the planet to cause global warming. I mean, it wouldn't be too much of a grasp. Now there is some tweaks and things that I want to look at for pollution values, which is gonna be a focus for the update after 10.3. It'll be a lot revolving garbage, recycling, pollution in general, the ecosystem primarily. Plans to make faces on the map less intrusive, not having them zoom in when you zoom on the map would be good. Something other than just turning it off. I think it's hard to do that without while still filling the functionality that the intention is. Any plans to come over to console at Dennis? Do you wanna answer that one, or? Generally speaking, it would never happen prior to 1.0 in particular. But yeah, there is a layer of complexity with consoles that would be very hard to get around in the game's current architecture, due to how console restrictions work in like application wise, based on how we have our servers set up. Are they all people on the server? Yeah. So you don't have NPCs in Eco outside of animals, and this is running on a live server, which is the White Cheetah, and it is a collaborative effort to kind of speedrun and see how quickly a cohesive group of people can get through the game content from point A to point B. Can you talk about any further plans, changes to the culture systems, or new ways to generate culture? We have some planned, but they're not in action yet, so I don't want to go into them at the moment, because there's just a layer of uncertainty, and I don't want to give out kind of wrongful information in as things can change quite drastically from where they're at right now to when they're actually implemented in game. But there is going to be coming a outdoor room that will help you amplify the culture you gain through paintings and frames at the moment. Which is going to be, you know, outdoors, so it'll be a new way to kind of add aesthetics around your property. So not filling up your entire property plot with just your house. They're like, you know, giving you a reason to not just do a square building. It adds a reason for having open space, greenery, and kind of decor around your environment. So here we have the cooking station, as we can see, heavily influenced by scaled fishing, I guess. Some ice boxes to help out with the stack sizes, and impressive use of hewn to make amazing housing. With the White Cheetah one we're watching, where they're probably having everything as short as it can go, it's like 3 days or something. They have the ambitious plan of doing it in 24 hours. So things are gonna go pretty rapidly here later on tonight / tomorrow morning. I think things are really gonna speed up with iron consumption and higher degrees of tech coming in. And I'm hoping not to miss it. So I'll continue after we close this out tonight. They're still, you know, they'll be working away at it all night, and then I'll come back in and stream tomorrow evening. Don't have a time as of right now because it's a bit uncertain when I get back home. So in the evening / not too late. If they're planning on 24 hours, I definitely don't want to miss it. So the stream would start earlier than we did today. So if you are interested in seeing how this speedrun ends up, make sure to tune in for that one as well. And you know, I'll keep answering questions that you have in the capacity I can give you. Such a massive grind. I love it. They're probably having a great time right now. Yeah, they're super organized, trying to do everything as optimized as they can, squeeze in, and going absolutely nuts. I mean, you can see how quickly they cleared out this rainforest. They've chalked through almost half the rainforest on this island, which is insane. Is there a work betting pool for hours taken? I don't know. I'd love to know if they've organized themselves with the tech upgrades and such. Oh yeah, they have this down to a scale of which upgrades is worth it at what stage, and waiting with certain processes to get the upgrades, and if the upgrades are worth the investment cost for the quantity of machinery they have. Since like a lot of it is down to, there's some weird loading thing going on there, because of the cost of upgrades, and the time is the relative component rather than the accumulation of resources. when they have the manpower to do it, it might just be faster in terms of time to just ignore certain modules for certain tables and combinations. But I'm pretty certain they have this just straight down to an art at this time, especially to be able to commit to this. I know there are a couple of kind of leaders in the group that kind of arranges and sorts and keep tabs on what's going where and what capacity and who works on what. But it's just amazing to see happen. And it's a great example as well, on kind of showing how hard it is to make an adjustable balanced point where, like, we can make it as costly as grindy, or, you know, it just increase volume of ingredients or quantity of ingredients that this costs. But at the end of the day, if you have a large enough group that is working in tandem and have everything mapped out to this degree, they're just gonna burst through kind of anything we throw at it, as long as they have the intention to do it. And the speedruns is just a great example on when that is taken into a practical level. Introduce an unexpected disaster. Random events. Cave-in fills everything with dirt. I like to say a statistic on how much Red Bull was consumed during this project. Yeah, that'd be slight concerning levels, maybe. Don't endorse excessively drinking energy drinks just to be able to keep up competitiveness in a speedrun, for any sake, in any game, really. But yeah, no, they're cutting down the forest in a rapid speed. Wonder, can I get this now? It is I was hoping to see the tech tree, but the tech tree is not playing nice. Swirling around, stalking people here. Dun 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 dun. Getting some leggy loads. It's the canoe factory. Gotta provide personal transportation for all the people fetching materials across the plains. But yeah, I think we can probably start wrapping up here if there's not a whole lot of other questions. Yeah, drink water. Mucho importante. Have been, am as well. That's a whole blank factory for basic upgrades for sure. Yeah, that is it is quite possible. I think I've gotten through it. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much the entire list. I do apologize if I've missed any questions kind of leaking through that hasn't been answered. Been a lot to kind of keep track on, and it is getting kind of late. But yeah, we'll continue the stream tomorrow, and I'll post an announcement on the Discord when I know exactly where. Oh yeah, Pondo, I'm sorry. The cats are fine. I'm not sure if you came in a bit later, but they were causing an absolute ruckus in the start of the stream. They were really wanting to participate on it. But yeah, they are. At the moment, they're sleeping, but they'll wake up here in half an hour and fly back and forth like gazelles. How does Dennis feel about these unrealistic buildings? I don't see any unrealistic buildings here. They seem fully supportable by that 2 pieces of 2x4s. Right? Yeah. So the whole stream thing will be, it'll be on YouTube. Which is also why I kind of want to cut it before the 4-hour thing. I know YouTube doesn't play nice with extremely long video uploads. But yeah, no, it's been amazing to be here and have everyone join in, and a lot of discussions back and forth. A lot of good questions posted, and as mentioned throughout, if you have any feedback and suggestions, hop out on our Canny page at eco.canny.io. Yeah, if you're interested in seeing how this the speedrun turns out, tune in tomorrow and have a look, and I'll hopefully catch it before it ends. Yeah, everyone, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you if you pop in on the next time. If not, there will be another dev stream as usual, bi-weekly, so in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll have some outdoor news for you, as well as a lot of finalization for balance stuff will be done. So take care, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.